Let's now talk about Sir Thomas More, one of the most fascinating figures of the early Tudor period. His name is always featured in chronological order type question. Born in London in 1478, the son of a judge, More grew up in an environment of law, faith and learning. He was deeply influenced by the Christian tradition, being an avid reader of both the Holy Scriptures and the writings of the Church Fathers. Educated in London, he spent part of his youth in the household of an archbishop before pursuing law as a profession. But More was much more than a lawyer. He was a humanist and statesman, connected with great thinkers like John Colet and, most importantly, his close friend Erasmus. Together, they stood at the heart of the Renaissance movement in England, blending classical learning with Christian faith. His public career brought him to high office. He even became Chancellor of England. But his loyalty to the Catholic Church clashed with Henry VIII's claims to supreme authority over it. For refusing to acknowledge the king's supremacy, More was imprisoned in 1534 and finally beheaded in 1535. Later, the Roman Catholic Church recognized him as a saint. Now, let's move to his writings. More wrote elegant Latin works filled with wit and learning, but his most enduring creation is, of course, Utopia. He began this while in Bruges, during negotiations for an Anglo-Flemish treaty, and it was first published at Leuven in December 1516, and yes, this has been asked in your exam. The word Utopia itself comes from Greek and literally means no place. The book describes an imaginary island governed entirely by reason. Here, property is held in common, religion is tolerant, and laws are simple. Through this fictional lens, More exposed the corruption and disorder of Christian Europe. The character Raphael Hythlode argues passionately that communism is the cure for society's ills. Now, pay close attention. Utopia was not translated into English until 1551, again asked in exam. The first translation was by Ralph Robinson, and later the third edition appeared in 1597. Another influential translation came from Gilbert Burnet in 1684, which became more widely known. Besides Utopia, More also wrote The Life of John Pecos, the biography of the Italian humanist Pico della Mirandola, and the unfinished history of Richard III, which some even consider a model for Shakespeare's history plays. By creating Utopia, More effectively founded the tradition of utopian romance in Europe, imaginary societies designed to critique real ones. His work set the stage for centuries of political and literary debate about the ideal commonwealth. Alright, let's dive into Thomas More's Utopia, one of the most important works of early Renaissance humanism. The story unfolds through a character named Raphael Hythlode. Remember this name? It's been asked in exam. He's a well-traveled sailor and philosopher who shares his observations with More and his friends. And what does he describe? An ideal society called Utopia. Now, Utopia isn't just any land. It's an island nation, carefully designed, divided into 54 cities, all governed by reason. Everything here functions with order and efficiency. One of the most striking features is that there's no private property, again, very important, asked in exam. People live communally, sharing resources equally, so no one suffers from poverty. Agriculture forms the foundation of society. Every citizen, no matter their class, works in the fields at some point. Yes, agriculture is the primary occupation asked in exam. But it's not just about work. Their cities are uniform and efficient, their work hours limited, leaving people with plenty of time for leisure and intellectual pursuits. Education is state-controlled and highly valued, ensuring a society of informed citizens. Religion in Utopia is fascinating too. They practice religious pluralism, allowing multiple faiths to exist side by side. Their laws are simple, so much so that lawyers or unnecessary people can understand and follow justice without endless complications. Although Utopians value peace, they're practical. They train for war, but only as a last resort. In personal life, marriage is respected deeply, though divorce is possible under specific circumstances. They even permit euthanasia for those suffering incurably, showing a surprising compassion for human suffering. What binds this society together is their principle. The welfare of the community always comes before individualism. Even punishments are designed to reform rather than merely punish. Of course, Hythloday contrasts all this with the greed, corruption and inequality of contemporary Europe, and yet the book closes with More himself questioning, can such a perfect society ever really exist?